Hi, I'm Andrew Blackman. I'm speaking today with Cherry Potts, who is the founder of Arachne Press, a small publisher in London that publishes short story collections. Hi, Cherry. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you, Andrew.
Good. Well, thanks for talking with me today. I thought we could start with talking a bit about why you set up Arachne Press, because you were a writer originally. You talk a bit about why you decided to become a publisher.
Well, having been published myself by other people, had a bit of a falling out, I think, is probably the kindest way of putting it with my publisher.
Okay.
First, over the fact that she wanted to republish my first collection under a different title. And I have a real thing about books coming out under different titles because I have many times bought books and then discovered I've already got it.
Yeah, I've had that. I hate that.
I think it's really dishonest.
Yeah, it's deceptive. Yeah.
So I hauled out my contract and found she couldn't do it without my permission. So I said, no, I'm not going to let you.
Good.
And so she said, all right then. And it got to the point where she was actually lying to me and she was actually still going to bring it out with a different, because she sent me the cover and it had the new title on it.
Wow.
And I thought, well, hang on a minute. Yeah. This was just before Christmas 2 years ago, and I just thought, well, I can get in a really serious strop about this and sulk, or I could do something constructive.
Yeah.
So should I do something constructive? And I thought, okay, well, I don't want to be a self-publisher. It's not, nothing against self-publishing, it's just not me. I want people to talk to about everything else. I didn't want to be on my own doing this.
Yeah.
And so I thought, well, so who else am I going to publish then? And I thought, well, I've had a few things produced by Liars League.
For people who don't know about the Liars League, if you could just explain a bit about
that. Liars League's been going nearly 7 years now.
Yeah.
Meets once a month in central London, and they have a theme every month. And people write to the theme a story of up to 2,000 words. It's picked by a committee of actors and writers, and then these stories are performed by actors. And I have to say, they do an absolutely fantastic job.
Because live events sort of play a big role in what you do at Arachne Press, right?
Absolutely,
you're always doing a lot of live events. So that's where that came from.
Yeah. It's partly that, and partly because I was desperate that we were going to really, really market what we do, because one of the complaints I had about my previous publishers, they never marketed anything. Yeah. They never did anything. They just sort of pushed the book out and said, oh, there you go. Right. And, sink or swim. So, and, with all the social media and things, there's an awful lot of things you can do for next to nothing to market a book.
Yeah.
And no doubt I could be more effective if I had a budget for marketing, but I don't, so there we are. So I have to be very inventive, and one of the things I do is I phone up bookshops and say, would you like us to do an event?
Yeah.
Because often they say no, but they say, but we will stock it.
Okay, that's good.
And it's so much easier than phoning up and say, will you stock my book? To which they say no. They like to say, everybody likes to have a no that they can say. So if you say no to something you don't mind they say no to, you can then get them to say yes to the next thing.
That's a good strategy.
It's very useful market. It's the only useful thing I found in the marketing tome I read, which was like 480 pages.
So, I mean, it's quite a big change going from being a writer to being a publisher. So could you talk a bit about some of the things you've learned along the way, some of the things that have been harder? Or...
I really thought I knew what I was doing. And one of the biggest helps has been the IPG, the Independent Publishers Guild, who produce a book called, what's it called? The Insider's Guide to Independent Publishing, which I bought before I joined them to see whether I was going to be doing something completely insane. And I have to say, I did ignore quite a lot of the advice that I should not have ignored. Right. But there you go. You always think you know better. And, I've worked in a bookshop. I've worked in a library. I've been published. How difficult can this be? Very is the answer to that. One of the things that's really been interesting is the number of people who I approach saying, okay, give me a quote on the printing, who, having said, you're far too small and we don't want to have anything to do with you. Then said, but try these people.
Right.
And one of those but try these people is in fact the people I'm now using, who are this wonderful company down in Cornwall. And they won hands down against somebody who was actually cheaper. Okay. Because when I sent them the email saying, okay, this is what I know I need. This is what, and these are the questions that I have to ask you before I know what I need. And if there are any questions I should have asked you that I haven't, please tell me. Actually responded and did exactly that. They phoned me up and said, here are the 2 questions you didn't know you needed to ask. And which were incredibly sensible. I don't remember what they were now, but they were incredibly sensible questions, and I was quite embarrassed that I hadn't asked. And when I said, and one of the things I said was, look, I'm very picky about paper, and I know nothing about what things are called and what weight anything means, and it's just blur to me. Can you send me some samples? Not only sent me samples of paper, they actually sent them made up in books.
Oh, wow. So
I could see how they packed up in the spine and this sort of thing, and different ways of binding the book, and which is why ours are notch bound, not perfect bound.
Okay.
Perfect being the ones where it's single sheets into glue and crack the spine, it breaks.
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah, I've had some of those, yeah.
Yeah, well, if it's notch bound, it's in folds of 8 pages and then in, so it doesn't crack.
Oh, yeah, I would have thought perfect bound would be the one to go with. That sounds good to me, but you think perfect would be good.
Tool for you, and it call it perfect. People go, it must be good. Yeah. So, I mean, there's been a huge amount of sort of technical stuff that I didn't know.
What if you could talk about some of the highlights of, what's been your favourite parts of the whole journey you've been on the last few years?
I'll tell you something that's really impressed me is every time we do a launch and we sit down and say, right, where shall we do this launch? What would be really fantastic would be ... fill in the best possible launch site for. Well, we won't get that, will we? And we always do. We launched Weird Lies at the Royal Observatory.
Oh, that's fantastic.
And I have got over my fear. Well, not quite. I haven't got over it. I do it anyway. But I used to be very diffident about approaching people and asking them for favours. And these days, I just think, well, if they want to say no, they'll say no. Yeah. And actually, mostly people are really flattered that you've asked. And they go out of their way to find a way to make it affordable.
Yeah.
Because if we'd paid for the Royal Observatory, it would have been £4,000.
Well, I was thinking when you said that I would think it would be something like that, or it would just be too difficult to even arrange it, all the red tape and stuff. But
as it happened, I know Sophie Aldred of Doctor Who fame, and she knows the public astronomer. Isn't that a wonderful job title? Yeah, I want to be public astronomer without having to do any of the work. Yeah. It's just a glorious title. Yeah. And so she said, send me an email that I can forward to him. Yeah. So I did. And I got a response the same day, even though he was actually out at a conference, saying, yeah, we'll do that. They were fantastic. They were so helpful. They were absolutely lovely.
It is amazing, isn't it? Sometimes, we always hear about how we're supposed to compete with each other and be all selfish and stuff, but it's amazing the things people will do for each other just to help someone.
It is, and it makes the bad days more bearable.
Yeah. And so what are the next books? What have you got coming up?
Well, there's only one planned at the moment, because I really have got to draw my horns in, because you expect to sell a lot of books at Christmas, and what's actually happening is people are sending them back to make room for the bestsellers they think they can sell.
Yeah.
I hate the way the book selling business works. It's really, it's like they go, you want to sell us some books, do you? Ha! If you could try.
Yeah.
So,
and you're right, Christmas is all about the big blockbuster celebrity biographies and stuff.
They don't want our stuff on the shelves at the moment. And that is the disadvantage, not having something out immediately before Christmas that can be one of those books. But it takes time to do stuff, and there's only me doing it. But what I've got planned is I'm bringing out a young adult novel by Alex Smith, who is one of the authors that's in Weird Lies. And it's quite astonishing. She sent it to me when I had my open submission window last spring. And I read it and I thought, bloody hell, this is good.
Wow.
And then it got to the end and it just sort of fell off a cliff. I thought, yeah, what's going on? So I emailed her and said, okay, I gather you've already got a publishing deal for this in South Africa, which is where she lives. How far on with it are you? Because I would want some changes. And she said, no, that's fine. They'd be very happy for you to have some editorial input before they have to bother doing that. So I've done a massive free edit for them, basically. Yeah. And it is quite an extraordinary book. And it was probably only on the third reading that I actually cottoned on to what she was actually doing. Oh. And it's because it's quite a traditional young adult novel for now, in that it's got lots of supernatural stuff in it. And it's quite violent in some ways. And it's only on the third go through I suddenly realised this is based on Frances Hodgson Burnett's Secret Garden, which is one of the sweetest, kindest, quietest little books about, recovering from illness and growing gardens and bereavement and, blah, blah, blah. Lovely, lovely book. And she's turned it into being about demons. And it works.
Wow. That's impressive.
It is. It really is. And it is a lovely, lovely, lovely book. Once I'd got her to tone down the graphicness of the violence, because it really was. No, I don't need to know that she paddled in her own mother's blood. Thank you. This sort of thing. I think it's going to be very, very exciting, and we've been looking at covers for that already.
So, are you planning any poetry? I saw something on your website.
Yes, I've got a call out for narrative poems, because I write poetry very badly. I have to admit it's very bad. I think I've probably written 3 good poems ever. But they tend to be long, and almost everything I see where people have got call-outs for poems, it's 40 lines or less.
Right.
Now, if you write poems that only have 3 words in a line, 40 lines is never going to get you anywhere.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's I write long, thin ones, not wide, fat ones.
Right.
And so I thought, well, and I know a lot of people who write really exceptional narrative poetry, so I thought, right, well, why don't we have a long poems collection?
Maybe there is a great narrative poet watching who's going to watch this, and they will send you their work.
That would be wonderful.
Okay, I think that is good for our chat. And just finally, just to sum up, if someone, like if I came to you and said, I'm a writer, I'm thinking of setting up a publishing company, would you encourage me to do it, or what would you tell me?
I would say, have you got independent means and endless time available?
Right. Because
if you haven't, really think hard.
It's hard, yeah.
Yeah, because when my redundancy money runs out, I don't know what I'm going to do.
Maybe the next book, as you say, will.
Yes.
What's the title of it? I can't remember. Did you tell me what the title is?
No, it's called Devil's Skin and Dear Love.
Okay.
I presume it's pronounced Devil's Skin. It might be Devil's Kin.
Okay. That's interesting in itself.
I haven't asked how you pronounce it.
Yeah.
I probably need to.
Could read it both ways. Yeah.
And and it's going to have a wonderful cover with lots of keys.
Yeah. And when's it coming out?
July. End of July.
And the latest one you have out right now, the sort of current.
The most recent ones, Mosaic of Airs, My Collection, and Weird Lies, which is science fiction, fantasy, and strange stories.
So people can find that in sort of UK bookshops
and can be bought around the world post-free from the Book Depository.